Right now at 9, an early morning fire in Lamar leaves one person dead. We'll tell you what authorities say happened. Plus, a family member of a woman rescued by Webb City Police is wanting answers after they say the responding officers were unprofessional. We'll hear from that family member and the Webb City Police Department. Also, we're heading to North Park Mall in Joplin for the 8th annual March o' the Kidney. And
the mayor of Kiev is vowing to turn his city into a fortress as Russian forces move on the capital of Ukraine. I'm Mike Tobin in Lviv. Details coming up.
You're watching the KOAM News at 9, and it starts right now. And thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Chris Warner. A fire at a home in Lamar leaves one person dead. Around 6 this morning, Lamar police and fire responded to a fire at a home near the intersection of 10th and Grand. They found flames and heavy smoke showing from the home. 67-year-old William Parker and 71-year-old Betty Jo Parker lived at the home. Officials say that Betty Jo was found dead in the home. They say it appears she went back into the home to rescue a pet and was overcome by smoke. William is being treated for non-life-threatening injuries. The cause of the fire has been ruled as accidental. As the Joplin Police Department mourns the loss of 2 officers in the line of duty this week, they're now mourning the loss of a longtime former chaplain. Roger Nichols was a chaplain for JPD for 18 years. The department said in a Facebook post that he selflessly served the department and specifically the family of Officer Tim Nielsen after Tim gave his life in service to the community. Nichols was killed in a crash yesterday afternoon on East 20th Street in Joplin. He was 60 years old. A family member wants answers after they say the first responders who rescued their mother were unprofessional and hesitant, which resulted in further injuries. Last Monday, the Webb City home of James Stark and their mother, Krista, caught fire. Because of a recent surgery, Krista was struggling to move and couldn't escape on her own. When Webb City police arrived, they broke a window to get Krista out, but James says they asked if they could break it before acting, which James says led to Krista's injuries being worse.
I was still on the phone and yelling for help down the street, and I was on the phone with 911 still. My dad was trying to do anything he could outside because the police had gotten there before the fire department, and feels like they kind of were a bit too casual about the whole situation.
When we spoke to the officers, they say they weren't asking permission, but assessing whether it was safe to break the window and avoid a backfire. Officer Austin Foey says he was just doing what was right.
It's instinct. I mean,
you're
not a police officer, so if you were out and you knew somebody was stuck in a house and it was on fire, but you knew that you could get them out of there, would you do it? It's not because we're putting on this badge. It's because we're human and we want to help other humans.
At last report, Krista Stark was recovering from smoke inhalation in an intensive care unit. Joplin's North Park Mall played host to the 8th annual March o' the Kidney. The walk raises money for the Freeman Dialysis Patient Assistance Fund. That fund helps local patients with special dietary needs, transportation to specialized kidney transplant appointments, and a lot more. Officials with Freeman say it's great to see the community come together every year for this very special walk.
We have such a great community support for kidney disease. We have people from all walks of life, all professions coming in to help support us. And we have a wonderful community in Joplin, and I couldn't be more proud.
Now, Dr. Hamlet says early detection is key, and there are some risk factors to be aware of. Those include diabetes, high blood pressure, obesity, family history of kidney disease, and aging. Some ethnicities at higher risk for kidney disease include African American, Hispanic American, Pacific Islander, and American Indian. In weather today, it was a very cold start to the day. Nick Kelly joins us.
But we wasted no time warming up, Chris, with much drier air in place, and even with a little bit of snow still on the ground. Look at how the numbers fared. We went from 12 as advertised this morning, but a little warmer than I was expecting, pushing 42 to 43 degrees, but that meant the melt was back on once we got past a cold start this morning. We just had maybe a few clouds during the early evening hours, but that was really just about it as far as any threatening weather goes. As far as the upper level setup's concerned, our last storm system's well to the east of us now. We're just focused on the building upper level ridge, getting that jet stream right back on top of the region. Couple that with the strong south wind picking up throughout the course of the night and the day tomorrow. We're actually going to have temperatures holding steady for the rest of the night, mainly in the mid to upper 30s, but mostly sunny skies. We spring forward during the overnight, more sunshine during the day. That will get us back into the lower 60s with plenty of sun for tomorrow. Chris will break down what's to expect for the week ahead here in a bit.
Nick, thank you. Ukraine today accused Russian forces of killing 7 civilians in an attack on women and children who were trying to escape fighting near Kyiv. With Russia's invasion now in its 3rd week, the Kremlin has shown no indications of letting up its assault. Fox News correspondent Mike Tobin has the latest on the crisis in Ukraine.
Russia intensifying its assault overnight on the capital of Kyiv. Efforts to get civilians out of harm's way are being derailed by heavy shelling and airstrikes. Those who have escaped report being directly targeted by Russian soldiers.
We were driving down the main road from my grandmother's and they just started shooting at us.
The Russian troops seemed very panicky. To me, they were scared and shot everything that moved.
Amid the pressure, Kiev's mayor says the city has become a fortress defended by armed civilians. Entire networks of trenches have been dug to slow down Russia's advance, Ukrainians vowing to keep up the fight as long as possible.
They will lose tanks every street, every block, every crossroad.
It's believed that because the invading army is facing stiffer resistance than anticipated and is seeing heavier losses on the ground, that's led them to step up artillery and air attacks. Some of the worst bombardment seen in the southern city of Mariupol, home to nearly 500,000 people. The city has been largely cut off from outside aid. This woman had been hiding underground at her brother's house when a mortar hit the building.
We were trapped underground and 2 children died. No one was able to save them.
Ukraine says it's upholding a ceasefire agreement in Mariupol to help civilians get out and called on Russia to do the same. Moscow blames Ukraine for the failed evacuations. More than 2.5 million people have fled Ukraine since the fighting began. In Lviv, Ukraine, Mike Tobin, Fox News.
We take this time now to honor one of our many 4-state heroes. Frank Houck served in the Navy, his hometown, Pierce City. And we're proud to recognize Frank Houck, tonight's 4-state hero. And of course, if you'd like to learn more about other heroes or nominate one of your own, you can do that at any time over at KOAMNewsNow.com. Coming up, one ride-hailing service is adding extra fees to your next trip or food order.
As advertised, once we got past a downright cold start this morning, the dry air that we had in place behind our storm system that gave us snow, along with plenty of clear skies today, we wasted no time getting back above freezing and certainly getting warmer than what we saw the other day, with temperatures only making it into the lower to middle 30s. But once we got past 13 at 7 a.m., but technically we started out at 12 at Joplin Regional, but it's right on the money about where we went this afternoon. Lower to middle 40s this afternoon, we'll certainly take it. And that's just a hint of how the weekend is going to wrap up. Mostly sunny skies, and I'm keeping us quite mild for your Sunday, with highs pushing back into the lower 60s across much of the region. But looking at next week and sticking with Doug's pattern, there's a system on Monday and Tuesday with rain chances that I'm watching. And then behind that, we'll have another system by St. Patrick's Day and Friday as we get next weekend underway. That could be another shot for rain and maybe some thunderstorms by then. But this view from 7th and Ranchland has stayed quiet all day long. It's going to stay quiet throughout the rest of the late night hours and heading into the overnight. And again, it was the clear skies that allowed us to rebound from quite a cold start. In fact, mid-single digits in our far northern counties. Everybody else in the lower to middle teens to start this morning out. But that dry air, that returning south wind, and mostly sunny skies got us back into the upper 30s and lower 40s for most, maybe some mid 40s on the board as well. But this evening has turned out to be a bit interesting because we were holding steady in the mid to upper 30s all evening long. And these numbers are going to pretty much hold steady because of our south wind picking back up. Earlier today, it was out of the south and southwest at about 5 to 10 miles per hour. But this wind is going to pick back up at 10 to 20 during the overnight. We're going to see that wind pick up because a quick warm front is passing through, and we've got high pressure over the Texarkana region. In fact, actually it's working in the Mississippi right now. This is going to make sure we go back into the 60s to wrap up the weekend tomorrow. In addition to that, the jet streams run to come back in our direction because of that building ridge out in the desert southwest. So that certainly means we're not going to be as cold, nowhere near as cold as this morning, as we go through the rest of the night. And notice how we go from 1 a.m. to 3 a.m. quickly. We spring forward overnight, so we might lose that hour of sleep, but we'll get an extra hour of daylight tomorrow. So we'll go from 38 in the morning, taking advantage of that extra hour of daylight and the southwest wind at 15 to 25, gusts near 30 at times. That's going to lead us to 55 at noon, pushing 62 in downtown Joplin. In fact, everybody should be at least back in the lower 60s as we wrap up the weekend tomorrow. Looking down the road, we have a next storm system, mainly rain chances late in the day on Monday night, and Tuesday morning. Then it clears out. We look good for Wednesday. Then another system. This is the one that could give us some thunderstorm chances, maybe late St. Patrick's Day, continuing into Friday morning. And of course, that's going to have temperatures go up and down a bit, but no big temperature drops as these systems pass on through. So we'll go to 62 on your Sunday, 58 on Monday, 59 Tuesday, near 70 for Wednesday and St. Patrick's Day. Patricks, how about Patrick's Day? And then upper 50s to lower 60s going into next weekend, Chris.
I think, by the end of the night, for some folks celebrating, it might become St. Patrick's Day.
Pretty much,
Patriots Day. Yeah. Nick, thank you so much. Loving that forecast, by the way. Up next, a new ale in time for what Nick mentioned, that popular celebration could change the definition of tea time. One ride-hailing service is adding extra fees to your next trip or food order. Uber says it's adding a surcharge to ride pickups because of record high gas prices. Surcharge will be around 45 to 55 cents a trip. Uber Eats users will also pay the additional charge of around 35 to 45 cents per order. Rides or deliveries done in Uber electric cars will also face surcharge fees. Uber says the surcharges will stay in effect for at least the next 60 days, and the company will continue to monitor gas prices and possibly make additional changes. A new ale in time for a popular celebration could change the definition of tea time. American-based Guinness Open Gate Brewery is bringing back Guinness Breakfast Tea Amber in time for St. Patrick's Day. The brewery debuted the beverage in 2019. The 4.8 alcohol by value Amber Ale is made with real Irish breakfast tea that is added to steep in the beer during the dry hopping phase. This year, it's being sold in 4 packs of 16-ounce cans. The drink is available for purchase at the brewery in Halethorpe, Maryland. The classic rock band Pink Floyd is removing their music from Russia over the ongoing war. The band announced on Twitter on Friday that the group is removing their music from all of Russia and Belarus' streaming platforms. Its lead singer David Gilmour says their albums from 1987 onward are being taken down, as well as his solo discography. Another member of the band, Roger Waters, also condemned Russia and President Vladimir Putin's actions on social media, calling the war, quote, the act of a gangster. There's excitement in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee this weekend as Dollywood opens for a new season. On Friday, the park's namesake was there to talk about it. Dolly Parton was the guest of honor for the park's season pass holders, her first time back in 3 years. She gave a preview of what's new at Dollywood in its 37th season. Dollywood has a new summer festival and a new kids area at the Splash Country attraction. A park official says major improvements also include more open space for better views of the train and a more streamlined entry area for guests. By the fall, a new resort is planned. Parton also highlighted a new album and book that she has just released. Monday is a delicious day for numbers and pizza lovers alike. It's Pie Day. That's P-I, not P-I-E. Monday, March 14th, or 314, is a mathematical excuse to get deals on all types of pies, but especially pizza. Your favorite pizza shop, restaurant, or grocery store is likely selling pizzas for $3.14 or giving you $3.14 off. We checked around, and dessert pies as well as pot pies are also on sale in some stores. A lot of the deals require you to be signed up for emails or use the store's app, so you might want to do some recon before Monday. What exactly is pie if you didn't know? It's the ratio of a circle's circumference to its diameter, and the trillion-digit ratio is rounded to 3.14. Now, if you didn't know before, you know why you're celebrating what you eat. Well, coming up, getting the coronavirus vaccine, it is still striking a discordant note in families. Getting the coronavirus vaccine, it's still striking a discordant note in families, according to a new study. Researchers at Washington State University say they're finding 16% of couples disagree about getting the coronavirus vaccine. Scientists interviewed about 1,300 couples over vaccine harmony. Researchers asked participants to list their reasons for not getting the shot, and some included vaccine safety, stubbornness, the government overstepping its bounds, natural immunity, and COVID not being real. If you are what you eat, avoiding some foods may help you keep from what you don't want to be. Dietitians say certain foods can make those who suffer from anxiety have more problems with it, and they cite several foods or liquids to avoid worsening anxiety. Too much alcohol can hinder sleep patterns and affect anxiety, and diet sodas using artificial sweeteners are linked to anxiety and depression. Bread using high-processed flour is another culprit, as well as ketchup and light salad dressings. Donuts and cakes with sugary frostings have high trans fat, and that affects depression as well. Pfizer is planning to submit data to the FDA in regards to a fourth COVID shot. The company also says they're working on a vaccine that can protect against all variants. CDC says around 81% of Americans 5 years and old and older have received at least one dose. Daily COVID cases and deaths have sharply declined since its Omicron peak in January. News comes exactly 2 years to the day after COVID was declared a pandemic by the World Health Organization. Trader Joe's is recalling one of its salads because there could be hard plastic in the dressing. The potentially affected crunchy slaw with chicken, crispy noodles, and peanut dressing was shipped to stores in Arizona, California, Nevada, New Mexico, and Utah. The use-by dates range from March 9th through the 12th. If you have it, the grocer recommends you toss it or return the product to the store for a refund. Trader Joe's says no injuries have been reported so far, and the salad is off of store shelves. The Biden administration partially ended a Trump-era border policy for children. Just after midnight Saturday, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention terminated part of a public health order called Title 42 as it relates to unaccompanied minors arriving at the U.S.-Mexico border. Title 42 largely barred migrants from seeking asylum in the U.S. using a pandemic emergency rule. The Biden administration had already exempted minors, but a court ruling in Texas last week would have forced expulsion for these children. CDC supports its decision by citing a number of protocols to reduce the spread of COVID-19 among migrant children traveling alone. Single adults and families could still be turned away. We're going to wrap up this half hour of the late news at 9 with this special story, because guess what today is? It's a good day to honor a special group of girls whose motto is do a good turn daily. Well, Saturday is the day to honor the group of girls whose motto is do a good turn daily. And so it's America's turn to honor and remember the Girl Scouts. The Girl Scouts was founded after Juliette Gordon Lowe, a Georgia woman, met Robert Baden-Powell, the founder of Scouting, in 1911. Girl Scout troops are all over the country doing good service projects, earning merit badges, building skills and character, and yes, filling our tummies with those yummy Girl Scout cookies. By 2005, Girl Scouts had 3.5 million members, and you can buy their cookies now to support them at girlscouts.org. We've got 30 more minutes of news, weather, and sports coming your way. Up first, TSA is preparing for the spring break trips and reminding travelers to be respectful. Plus, a U.S. soldier died during a desert training accident at Fort Irwin, California on Thursday. And Wednesday marks 1 year since a gunman went on a rampage at 3 spas in and around Atlanta, killing 8 people. Welcome back. The TSA is preparing for the spring break trips and reminds travelers to be respectful. Transportation Safety Administration is asking travelers during the spring break period to be respectful, and they're sending out helpful tips to keep people patient because travel volume is expected to be 90% of pre-pandemic levels. However, their masking regulations remain through April 18th. Some of their recommendations are to follow liquid limits, pack food in a clear plastic bag, and don't bring firearms to checkpoints, and of course, leave lots of travel time. A U.S. soldier died during a desert training accident at Fort Irwin, California on Thursday. The Army identifies the victim as Specialist Joseph Meidel Jr. Meidel was an armored cannon crew member on the Steel Dragon team. The cause of his death is under investigation. Fort Irwin is a national training center for simulated battle exercises in the Mojave Desert. Wednesday marks 1 year since a gunman went on a rampage at 3 spas in and around Atlanta, killing 8 people. 6 of the victims were Asian women. Robert Aaron Long said he was hopeless and suicidal because of a sex addiction when he bought a gun, ammunition, and alcohol before going into Young Asian Massage. Long said he'd gotten sexual services there in the past. He shot 5 people, killing 4. Long then drove 30 miles to Atlanta, where he's accused of shooting up Gold Massage and Spa and Aromatherapy Spa. Long is serving 4 life sentences for the first shooting and still faces the death penalty for the others. A day of silence is planned for March 16th to give respect and honor to the victims. Vladimir Putin escalating his crackdown on free speech inside Russia, saying he is banning Instagram and calling Facebook an extremist organization. Fox News correspondent Alexandria Hoff has more from Washington.
Instagram users in Russia have until Monday to save their pictures and videos. After that, access to the platform will be cut off, as will 80 million Russian people from each other and from the realities of the world outside. Russia's Supervision of Communications Office claims that the move is due to posts condoning violence against Russians. Russian prosecutors are seeking a criminal case against Meta Platforms, the parent company of Instagram and Facebook, calling them an extremist organization. On Thursday, Reuters was the first to report that Meta did make a temporary change to their hate speech policy. In a statement, it explained that the focus was to protect free speech as a form of self-expression and self-defense while surviving a military invasion. Quote, "The fact is, if we applied our standard content policies without any adjustments, we would now be removing content from ordinary Ukrainians expressing their resistance and fury at the invading military forces, which would rightly be viewed as unacceptable." The statement continued that this temporary policy shift only applies in Ukraine itself and, quote, "There is no change at all to our policies on hate speech as far as the Russian people are concerned. We will not tolerate Russophobia or any kind of discrimination, harassment, or violence toward Russians on our platform." Russia banned Facebook last week, but some in the country are still finding a way to tap into the rest of the world by using VPNs, which are private networks that can obscure the person's location. In Washington, Alexandria Hoff, Fox News.
As Russian forces continue pushing further into Ukraine, some people wonder why NATO allies aren't doing more. Fox News senior correspondent Eric Shawn explains.
Ukraine is not a member of NATO, which is why the international force, whose mission would be to stop Vladimir Putin's aggression, has not come to its aid.
If there's one thing that Putin really fears, it is NATO. Putin understands that NATO represents the strength of the West.
NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, is a military alliance started in 1949 for the West to face the threat from the Soviet Union.
There must be no wavering in our support of the North Atlantic Alliance. That is, has stopped the spread of communism in Europe and the Mediterranean.
At first, 12 countries signed on. 4 more joined by the end of the Cold War. The key section calling for collective defense, Article 5, pledges an armed attack against one or more of them shall be considered an attack against them all. That, so far, has only been invoked once in response to the attacks on 9/11. 2004 saw the largest NATO expansion, 7 nations, including 3 former Soviet Baltic states. Now, NATO numbers 30 countries, and others besides Ukraine, like Finland and Georgia, want in.
They've seen what's happened to Ukraine, and countries that have remained neutral in Europe, I think will have a vested interest in actually becoming members of the NATO alliance.
For now, NATO can only sit on the sidelines to prevent a wider war. But its Secretary General says NATO is boosting its defenses to ensure that members near Russia and Ukraine are not Vladimir Putin's next target. In New York, Eric Shawn, Fox News.
Later on the news at 9, we're going to take a look at the all-new 2022 Jeep Grand Cherokee in this week's Car Report.
It was nice that we kept things dry for today to continue the big melt after we saw those minor accumulations back late Thursday night and into Friday. Plus, we welcome the sun because it certainly got us quite a bit warmer, not just from this morning, but from the other day as well, where we had highs only topping out in the lower to middle 30s. We dropped back to 12 at Joplin Regional this morning, and even at 13 at 7 a.m. this morning. That was downright cold, but with drier air in place, clear skies, and a light breeze back out of the south, that did the trick, got us back above freezing and back into the 40s this afternoon. If we look at the week ahead, at a broad scale of things, we are looking good for tomorrow. Mostly sunny and mild air coming back into play for Sunday. Highs will be back in the lower 60s to wrap up the weekend. But sticking with Doug's pattern, I have a system Monday and Tuesday with rain chances that we'll keep an eye on. And then another system with rain and maybe some thunderstorms too by St. Patrick's Day and going into Friday before next weekend gets going. But we are enjoying the dry time while it's here. This view from 7th and Rangeline not only has it been quiet all evening long, but it's been quiet all day long. And it was again those clear skies that took us out of the mid-single digits in our northern counties, upper single digits to about the lower to middle teens elsewhere at 7 o'clock this morning, soaring into the upper 30s to lower 40s across much of the region, maybe a couple mid 40s too, especially the farther south and west you go from Joplin. What's interesting about tonight though is it is going to be cold, but look at temperatures back during the just before we hit the top of the 9 o'clock hour, mid to upper 30s. But this is where the numbers are primarily going to stay throughout the course of the night, because even though we had a light breeze throughout the day, that south wind is going to pick back up at 10 to 20 miles per hour. The last check of things, it was still relatively light, but that south wind kicking back into gear overnight will be because of a warm front quickly advancing in from the west. Couple that with an area high pressure, let's say over Tunica, Mississippi, on the Mississippi River. That south wind is going to really help temperatures warm up for the day tomorrow. In addition to the upper level setup that's changing, we're going to get the jet back on top of the region as an upper level ridge comes out of the desert southwest. All that means for the short term is temperatures holding steady throughout the course of the night, mainly in the mid to upper 30s, no matter where you are across the area. So cold, but thankfully instead of lows near 13 like we saw in Joplin this morning, Joplin you'll start at 38 in the morning. Then that south breeze picks up at 15 to 25 and even gusts near 30 at times. But couple that with mostly sunny skies, we'll go to 55 by noon, highs near 62. Most of us should easily go back into the lower, maybe some mid 60s for tomorrow afternoon. Let's look down the road. Here's the jet stream setup showing the next system with rain chances maybe developing late Monday afternoon through Monday night and Tuesday morning. Then Tuesday afternoon looks dry. We'll keep it dry for Wednesday. Then another system will come in for late St. Patrick's Day and then the Friday. That will be the system that could give us some rain and even some thunderstorm chances that we'll keep an eye on. As far as what it'll do with temperatures, no big drops with these systems as they pass on through. 62 tomorrow, mainly upper 50s. For Monday and Tuesday, back near 70 for Wednesday and Thursday, and even with highs in the mid-50s on Friday and 61 on Saturday, Chris, no big drops in temperatures with these systems passing through.
See, that's my favorite part about this whole forecast overall is the fact that we are getting these systems, but like you said, no big drops. We're not seeing those huge drops, which tells me we're getting that much closer to spring.
Yeah, and after the last brief spout of winter that we've had, hopefully it's the last one we've had for a while.
I certainly hope so. I mean, that was just, I'm like, come on, what is going on out here? I mean, I know it can happen. I've lived here long enough. I've seen snow in April, but it just was like, really, come on, guys.
Well, do you remember May 2013? We actually had snow early in the month of May.
I do remember that.
And the first time I've ever heard in my life of a snow delay up at Kauffman Stadium. That was amazing.
You got to love the weather around
Yeah.
here. Nick, thank you so much. Well, coming up in sports, it is the final day of the Division II Indoor Track and Field National Championships. Plus, Pitt State Baseball begins the series against Northwest. Danny Terzer's got it all next.
State baseball has won their last 4 games, including a series sweep over Missouri Western their last time out. Today, PSU kicks off a home series against Northwest. Scoreless in the second, Aaron Gertis gets a hit out to center. Outfielder can't get there, so Garrett McGowan rounding the bases from first. He scores, and it's an RBI triple for Gertis. Pitt leads 1-0. Later in the fourth, Jordan Maxson gets a solo shot. It's his 5th of the year. Same inning, Caleb Carr. That's good for an RBI double. McGowan beats the throw home. It's his 2nd run of the day. Northwest ties it back up in the top of the 5th, but Pitt State responds. Cruz Aranda pops it up. Mason Hartman scores off the sac fly. But in the 8th, it's tied again. Carr gets a piece of this. He'll be out at first, but look at this play. Brett Daly reaches back to touch home plate. He is safe. That's the go-ahead run for the Gorillas. They close it out. Pitt State wins 6-5. Missouri Southern is on the road for a 3-game series against Central Oklahoma. In Game 1 today, the Lions win it 5-2. Ryan Doran drives in 2 runs off of 2 hits. Jordan Fitzpatrick goes 2 for 4 with an RBI and 2 runs. On the mound, Jacob Davis pitches 6 innings with 8 strikeouts. Today is the final day of the Division II Indoor Track and Field National Championships. For Missouri Southern, Kiara Smith finishes the 60-meter hurdles in a new school record time of 8.41 seconds. That makes the sophomore a national runner-up and All-American. For Pitt State, Mason Strader earns All-American honors with a 4th place finish in the mile. In the men's heptathlon, PSU locks up the 3rd and 4th spots overall. Trey Mooney comes in 3rd and teammate Hunter Jones finishes 4th. LJ Kiner competing in the triple jump here. He sets a new school record mark of 53 feet, 2.75 inches. Kiner is a national champion. For the PSU women, Christine Williams finishes 4th in the 200-meter dash to earn All-American honors. And finally, in the women's pentathlon, Blakely Wynn finishes 3rd overall, and Trace Mosby gets the national runner-up finish, coming in 2nd. As a team, the PSU women tie for 5th place, and the men come in 3rd. The Carl Junction girls are coming off their 7th straight district title. The Bulldogs play in the state quarterfinals today. CJ falls to West Plains 55-46. Destiny Berge leads the team with 24 points. The girls finished the season 23-8. Kansas is playing Texas Tech today in the Big 12 Conference Tournament title game. The Jayhawks have won it 11 times, most recently in 2018. These two split the regular season series. First half, Ochai Agbaji knocks down a deep 3. He finishes with 16. Later, Marcus Santos Silva throws down the dunk. Jayhawks lead by 1 at half. David McCormick bucket for 2 plus the foul. He has a team-high 18 points and 11 rebounds. Kansas up by 4. Then Jalen Wilson gets inside for the layup. Jayhawks on a 10-2 run. Finally, Christian Brown takes it all the way, and the Jayhawks are Big 12 champions, beating Texas Tech 74-65. We're back right after this.
A new Jeep is ready to take you off-roading. Fox's Gary Gastelou takes a look at the 2022 Jeep Grand Cherokee.
The Grand Cherokee is so important to Jeep that now there's 2. A few months ago, it launched the Grand Cherokee L, which is the first with 3 rows of seating. But now that's been joined by a new version of the classic 2-row model, which replaces a vehicle that first went on sale in 2011, but was Jeep's top model as recently as last year. So you know they didn't want to mess this one up. The 2022 Grand Cherokee is only slightly larger than the outgoing model and even has a bit less rear legroom, but remains right-sized for off-roading. This time around, you get the Grand Cherokee as a plug-in hybrid called the 4xe, but that's a whole other thing. The normal one comes standard with a 293 horsepower V6 and is available with an optional 357 horsepower V8. The only one available in the mainstream two-row mid-size class other than the Jeep Wrangler. That is, if you can even consider this a mainstream model anymore, because a two-wheel drive Laredo now starts at $39,000, while a Summit like this with all the options is over 60 grand. But they are some pretty good options. The Summit offers a luxe interior with leather and wood trim and an array of digital displays with live streaming services built in, including one for the front seat passenger that's filtered so the driver can't sneak a peek. It also has a full suite of electronic driver aids, including adaptive cruise control, lane keeping assist, and a night vision camera with pedestrian and animal detection. Jeeps are all about the outdoors after all. Several trims, including the Summit, feature a Quadralift air suspension system that can increase the ground clearance from around 8.5 to 11 inches, while a selection of 4x4 systems deliver increasing levels of capability that surpass previous editions across all terrains. This feels sturdier and more refined than the old version, which is saying a lot, and it eats up dirt roads like whatever eats dirt. A worm? Nah, it's cooler than that. The 2022 Jeep Grand Cherokee. Gary Gastelou, Fox News.
Coming up, Chicago is going green, but not necessarily in the environmental way. Chicago is feeling lucky. The most iconic sign of the St. Patrick's holiday, the dyeing of the Chicago River green. Now, the annual River Dyeing event is followed by the St. Patrick's Day Parade, which is now back after a 2-year hiatus due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The river is supposed to remain green for 1 to 3 days after St. Patrick's Day. We want to take some time now real quick to remind you it's almost time to spring forward. Now, with technology these days, most of your devices, they're going to do that automatically. But before you head to bed tonight, make sure you push your manual clocks up an hour. Additionally, time change is a perfect opportunity to change the batteries in your smoke detectors. And we did want to take a moment tonight. It's been a long week for many people here in the Joplin community. So we've gone through a very serious and heartbreaking tragedy that our community has experienced. We're all experiencing it together. We're all feeling it together. But at the same time, help may seem to be too far away. If you're feeling stressed, overwhelmed by the events of this past week, which have not occurred in Joplin's time, not in my 35 years here, don't be afraid to reach out. Make sure that you talk to somebody. It's definitely been a daunting week for both journalists and for our community members, for the members of the Joplin Police Department. Remember to continue to pray for them, their families, lift them up, but also remember to take time for yourself and make sure that you're doing okay after this past week. And that is our time for now. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll do it again tomorrow night. And thanks for making us part of your night.